Education is said to be the building block of any nation in our modern world. If this is true, and I believe it is, then the Nigerian nation is in clear and present danger of crumbling right to the ground. The educational system in Nigeria today is far from offering a building block. It has become a stumbling block instead. The summit today is on some of the causes and effects of the progressive degeneration of education in contemporary Nigeria. Welcome to the summit. We have established some of the failures of successive governments of Nigeria in giving education the attention that it deserves. Today's summit addresses some of those failures. It is also very important to look at the general commitment and attitudes of the people in our educational institutions, which include the educators, as well as the pupils, or students being educated. Our premise is that there are enough blames to go around on both sides of the aisle. The educators have been accused of lacking in their commitment to educate, and the students have been accused of lacking their commitment to learn. Ultimately, the standard is going down the drain. As usual, I have a good ensemble of competent personalities to discuss this today. With me is a mixed bag of individuals from the academic world, and also with the group is also a student, so that we hear from all sides. NUHU OGIRIMA is the president of Colleges of Education of Academic Staff, KWASU. Yes. He's also a principal lecturer at the Federal College of Education in Okene. Also is Oluwole Olakunle, a National Director of Student Affairs with the COA Party of Nigeria. Am I correct? Yes. You're welcome. Ibanga Isine is not somebody unknown to us. He's a visiting journalism instructor at American University of Nigeria in Yola, but also is a managing editor of the Next Edition newspaper. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, it is difficult to begin to say that this is one of those subjects that is long overdue. Something happened quite recently, about 2 weeks ago, which basically threw all of this in the air. And that had to do with a student from OAU University who, from all indication, according to some of the sources, induced a professor into sex for grade. Gentlemen, as much as I would love to get a female's perspective on this particular subject, it is critical that we do it some justice. How did we get this low in terms of the entire educational system? Now has a lot to do with students who probably don't go to school but expect grades. But give us some historical background. How did we ever go from being a great country with all the great universities to now a bunch of students who are just basically not wanting to go to school but trading sex for grade? Maybe I'm just overly assuming. Nuhu, can you take us on a journey? How did we get this low?
Thank you. By my assessment, I think the issue itself, let me first say that I'm quite ambivalent about the whole issue. That's the alleged sex for mark scandal that is happening in OAU. I said happening because just this morning we also had an update that another lecturer has been so accused. But I think from introductory, it does seem that you may be tilting towards maybe accusatory. That's what your tone suggests, which to me is not actually the case. And that is why I'm quite ambivalent about it. For once, when we look at the side of it, I've listened to the audio that was circulated. And perhaps that is why people tend to think that the student may have been the one that had actually done that. But when we look at, we'll cast a glance at our previous history, before now we have, it's not quite a new thing. Perhaps what is new there is the dimension it has assumed. Because I know of some institutions of learning where similar accusations have come up. As it did in the past, the institutions addressed them internally. And I'm aware of certain instances where even those that were alleged to have committed such an act went to court and had court ruling. Eventually, they were exonerated and then had to be, in one instance that's on my mind now, had to seek appointment elsewhere. When talking about the degeneration of our educational system, I think there are a lot of factors to it. But you see, when we look at it critically, the issue of curriculum is there. The issue of the curriculum delivery itself is there. The issue of the resources, the environment. And when we speak about the environment, we talk about the administration and management of institutions. It's also there. Then the issue of parents is there. Then the angle of the learner, these are all issues that form the gamut of the problem that, the bane of our educational development. Okay. But in the context of this discussion, I think what we are saying, like I said, the dimension there that it has assumed is the new thing that we are saying. I said the dimension there because, like I said, there have been similar instances, but it was institutionalized. It was institutions themselves that handled such development, and that is why perhaps never saw the. It was never subjected to public limelight as this one is doing. And I think this one is doing this. We are witnessing this in this manner because of the utilization of social media in getting across to people. And that raises a lot of questions.
No, you're going too far. I wanted you to give me the genesis of how our educational system became, got to this decadent system.
Let me say something here.
Yes.
Because
he said he is ambivalent.
Yes.
But his ambivalence, does not necessarily gel with the history and
how we got to
exactly.
Okay. So now let me say something. See, in the past, hard work, the values of hard work, dedication, and honesty were the cornerstone of our society. People wanted to be known for working hard, doing the right things, and parents encouraged their children. Now, but it got to a point where parents will get mercenaries to write examination for their children. Parents will want their children up the corners to get their children admission. And that's why a lot of students who could not get admissions in Nigerian universities because of some form of stringent conditions or the difficulties, seeming difficulty, go to Ghana, Benin Republic, to universities that are like mushrooms. They don't have substances, they are just there, and they churn out degrees. They even give degrees whether you attend school or not. So the values of our society has really gone down, and parents, instead of encouraging their children, their wards, to study hard like they did, because this never happened in the 70s. It was just very little. And people were working so hard. So when parents started saying, my son has to get an A, or the child does not read, and because daddy, the teacher flogged me, and then they say, who was that teacher? Goes to school, flogs the teacher very well, and maybe come with the police, and the teacher is beaten, taken to the cell, and the children clap. And so we started losing it. And then came the issue of mercenary. The people started hiring other people to write exams for their children.
Thanks,
and then we started losing it. And then funding, progressively, we lose it in funding. The government is not doing enough. And then the building block for education was teacher training colleges, TTC. You have to get a grade 2, and that was the foundation. My father went through that. My mother went through the basis. Now is talking of college.
No, we're going to come to that.
So when you look at progressively how we declined, I'm using that deliberately. We progressively declined, and then you can be sure that unless something is done and urgently, it's going to get worse.
Thank you. Let's bring in a student. You are the national president of COA.
National Director of Student Affairs for the party.
National Director of Student Affairs for COA.
Yeah.
From your angle, obviously, you have seen a lot of things said about what goes on college campuses. I mean, by that I'm talking of university campuses, sex for grades and people paying teachers in order to get pass marks, even though they spend the entire semester out of school. What is happening?
I think, first of all, we should not probably look at the face of the problem. I think we should go deep down into the solution, because it's all started because we as a country have decided to...
Sorry, you say we shouldn't look at the face of the problem?
Yeah, we should
but
go
we
deep
look at
down.
this. How do you go into a solution without
I think what I was supposed to say is that to look deep down into the problem, really not the solution.
Okay.
So as a matter of fact, as a nation, I think we've probably looked aside from what the future of this country lies ahead about, because the youth and of a country determines how bright the future